Well, here we are in a different section of the nursery talking about preparing your garden for winter, and this time our special aspect is rose bushes and mulching. Now, oftentimes folks get confused about when to prune their rose bush back, and typically we prune them back in the spring when the forsythia in bloom, because sometimes the rose bushes get killed back in the winter. So that's the key time we do our final pruning on the roses, is in March when the forsythia are in bloom. However, in the fall, if we have some especially long canes, what we will do is we will cut the rose bush back half of the total amount we're going to cut it back, so that these don't become ice laden and then get whipped in the wind and snap off here at a key juncture. So we'll come in then and we'll prune it back half of what we're totally going to prune it back for the year, to get rid of these long canes that might get ice laden and then wind whipped and cause our bush to have some breakage for us. So that's our first consideration. The second consideration with the roses in the winter is that they have a bud union, and that is where the desirable variety is grafted into what is known as the understock. And the top bush is not as hardy as the understock, so many times the top bush will get killed out and people will have this other bush come up with these dark red flowers, which is Dr. Yui, the understock. And they wonder, not only blooms in early June and then doesn't bloom the rest of the summer. So what we can do is we can take some measures to try to make sure our rose bush survives the winter. The first measure is planting the rose bush where the soil is either at the bud union level or the bud union is slightly below the ground level. So that's first step, is correct planting, to make sure that bud union is at the proper level in relationship to the soil. And you can plant it 1 to 2 inches deep, below, with that bud union 1 to 2 inches below the soil level, and that's okay too. And certainly further north where it's colder, they have to do that to have their roses survive. Now, different rose cultivars have different hardiness ratings. Some are not even hardy here in this zone in Pennsylvania. So that's step one. Now, step two is we can take mulch or soil and we can build a soil cone or a mulch cone up over top of this bud union to help to protect it. And that will give us 12 inches of wood that we know for sure we will have the following spring. If we don't do that and we have a severe winter, this bush, including the bud union, can get totally wiped out, and you'll have nothing except that wild understock there, the Dr. Yui. So what we'll do is we'll take our mulch or our soil and we will fill it around the bush and cone it up a good 12 inches. Then in the spring we could easily pull that down. All right, so there we go. Got a good 12 inches of coned up soil or mulch. The next spring I'll be sure to have that 12 inches of wood for my rose bush to regrow from. And I will cone that down usually in April. Once we get through the severe freezing that sometimes can occur in early April, we'll pull that down and level it out. And of course that'll keep all these nasty weeds from coming up around our rose bush.